All right, this is a second part, unplanned second part on reading advice, but I want to get into some more technical details. I'm going to start with an illustration. There was a player, a multiplayer FPS player named Broken Machine. And whenever he's advising people on how to play a first person shooter, he will give you a series of things to reduce input lag. What I mean by that is the difference between the time it takes for you to put information into the controller and then a response on the screen. So he'll say things like, plug your, is this thing this big of a mess? I apologize. Um, so he may say something like, plug your controller in, make sure that your internet is connected, directly through an Ethernet cord rather than Wi-Fi. And he'll give you about 15 different things. And all of these things together reduce milliseconds, okay? And the overall time you gain can equate to almost a full second advantage over your opponents in some cases, depending on their ping and all that kind of things. Okay, don't get too far in the weeds on that. But the point here is that if you can combine a lot of these little mini strategies to save some time, you end up with a net advantage that's quite significant, okay? Now, the same thing can work with reading. If you are wanting to become a better reader, you have to become, not while you're reading, but you have to game plan. You have to attack what you're reading, okay? Now, people who are just naturally good at reading don't even think about these things. I think they just do them. They don't worry about it. They don't think about it. They just do it. Me, I was always looking for a way to read a little bit more without sacrificing retention, okay? And the fact of the matter is, really good readers probably have really good memories as well. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like they can read faster because they can retain the information and remember it longer. And those of us who have reading disabilities, it's a little bit more difficult to take the word in. You have trouble even seeing the word sometimes, and then you've got to take the word in and remember it. And that process is slow. So why not speed up other things and also calibrate your mind to what you're reading to help yourself out? And this will gain you a net advantage. It won't make you faster than a really good reader, but it'll make you personally a great reader, if that makes any sense. Because if you're going from reading 0 books to reading books regularly, you've become a great reader compared to where you were. So that over the course of many years, you turn out improving. You don't even know it. In fact, I've been reading here and I just noticed I can just skim very easily now, much easier than when I first started. And there are reasons for that. And some of that has to do with my plan of attack. So I'm going to go into that. All right, the first thing you should do when you look at a book is you actually should read the back. You should look at the table of contents and any kind of author's notes. You don't have to read the author's notes extensively. Maybe read the first words of each paragraph. See if that information is pertinent to your reading. See where their mindset is. So this is really important. These things can help you realize what you're kind of getting into. The next thing you should be doing is you should be scanning the entire book. Now, what do I mean by that? This all goes into creating a plan of attack. Where are you going to leave off when you finally get through your 10 minutes? If you don't know, what can end up happening is when you come back to the book, you read things to find out where you were. So you have your bookmarker in there, right? But did you finish mid-page? You got to look for where you started. You may read things you've already read. You may go ahead of where you were and spend some time looking for where you left off. Well, if you get up to get a drink of water, you get up to go to the bathroom, you put the book down for a minute to think, which is I highly recommend, even though it makes reading take longer. The whole point of this process is to enjoy reading. So part of enjoying reading is you're reading well if you're stopping and thinking. Sometimes you don't even need to be thinking about the book. It just triggers another thought. That's great. Why are we reading? We're not reading just for volume, right? We're reading for quality. And I know I've emphasized volume, but that's just so that you can read more qualitatively. So keep in mind what the real goals here are. So you don't want to go, oh, I spent too much time daydreaming. That's not too bad if you enjoyed what you're thinking about. and if it was triggered by the book. Really important. Okay, so you should know when you're going to stop reading and when you're going to allow yourself to stop reading. So I had a little rule that I developed over time. It said, okay, when I turn the next, if I was like getting towards the end of a page and I knew I wanted to get up and grab a cup of coffee or something, I would say the next page at the end of that paragraph is where I'll allow myself in this particular book to stop reading. And so when I picked the book back up, guess what? The first full paragraph, the first sentence or the first full paragraph on the left page is where I was every single time. Never had to second guess it, never had to look around. This cuts time, okay? It also causes you to think about what you've just read. This is where I left off. You're actually thinking about where you just read. That's good. Now, when you're scanning the book, what you're looking for is things like, how long are the chapters? What are there page breaks? Are the page breaks marked by anything? Are there pictures? These things are helpful because you may go from reading for 10 minutes instead of that of just reading to the next page break. If they have page breaks or short chapters, that's a great thing because you can kind of get that whole thing down in one sitting. Sometimes it can be a bad thing though, because sometimes you could easily read more and you don't. And you should just gauge that, are these chapters so short? You don't want to, it just depends on the kind of person you are. You may want to say, well, I'd really just rather edit a chapter and leave it at that, even if it takes a little longer. That's cool. But if you could read more and you don't have a problem of using the rule I have, whereas just I'll wait till on the left page, I finish the sentence of the last paragraph on the left page and leave the next full paragraph, you can read a little more than just the chapter, okay? Next thing is this. Is this book first person or third person? Think about this for a minute. Let's take H.P. Lovecraft, for example. He writes his books in first person. Why does he do that? Well, he wants you to experience what the narrator's experiencing, which means as you're reading it, the narrator has limitations on what they can speculate about. That's by design, right? So let's say you kind of get lost in thought while you're reading. If you know this is a first-person narrative, you probably won't be as lost as you would be if you hadn't even thought about that. Now, again, you will eventually do these things by intuition. But at first, though, actually make an effort to contemplate what it means that your author is writing in third person or first person. It does matter. It really matters. So Lovecraft, for example, if you get lost in thought on some of Lovecraft's writings, a lot of times you're reading like a diary of a character that the first person character is actually reading. Okay. And so you have less of a tendency to go, wait a minute, what's going on? Well, you know what's going on because it's a diary. It's not actually happening in real time in the book. So if you get what I'm saying here. So this is a really important way of thinking about reading. That's really all I have right now. There are probably some other technical details that when I turn this off, I'm going to kick myself in the butt about not giving you. But again, these are things an experienced reader or great readers, they don't, like truly great readers, I think they just do these things. I don't think they think about them. They just do them. They may not even need to do them. But I'm going to tell you, if you do this, you do these things I'm telling you, this is years of experience speaking, you will be cutting out time. And not only will you be cutting out time, you'll be cutting out mental fatigue. Reading can create mental fatigue if you're struggling with reading. It really can. It'll tax you. And these little things that you don't have to think about anymore, you make them automatic. I just do these things without thinking anymore. Just do them. It's making it the process of reading easier. And by making it easier, it's just becoming a much faster thing to do to get good quality reading in. All right, get to reading. It can't be read for you. So make sure the only way the reading is going to get done is if you do it.